Now we're going to take you through the song Techinflux. This one is extremely old, but there's so many iterations on this that brought us from 2007 all the way up until probably 2021, 2020, something like that.
The story with this one is this was originally going to be a standalone EP, and this is actually a shortened version from its original idea.
So it starts off with something that Kevin Theodore wrote. I don't know how he wrote it, but he just tends to do.
Well, this is a version of the chord progression I wrote that like really kicked off this entire song. I wrote this back when I was at Purchase, and I was like coming up with a chord progression for like a zombie movie. Seriously, because I just watched that. What's that movie called? Something Days Later? 28 Days Later? Yeah. So if we were to listen to that now, you would probably see like, oh shit, I could definitely tell you were inspired by some zombie chord progressions.
I think I remember when Kevin recorded this, I think it was on the day where I brought my electric drums to your old place in Long Island. Then I actually tracked the drums for the original record, and then Kevin came by and just played the intro.
Yeah.
So that was 2010, 2000.
Yeah. And here's the original beginning.
Part of this was inspired by a book called The Moral Landscape by Sam Harris. What Sam Harris was kind of highlighting in his book was anything that brings deliberate harm to someone, any living thing, we should think about that, or at least conceptualize that type of behavior as an immoral act. Throats being cut in the Middle East, and women not being allowed to go to school, and people being stoned to death for adultery and things like that. It's like, I think we're allowed to say that's fucking immoral.
Seems like there's nothing to matter, like we don't even care.
Yeah, and then this part's like, dude, you don't know what you don't know. And when you work yourself into a tiny little bubble, you're gonna start to think, well, if everything's fine in my bubble, everything elsewhere, yeah, everything is peaches and cream.
Yeah, that's definitely like original, tech metal stuff. I'm pretty sure that's like inspired by Dillinger or something like that. Yeah, this whole section here is probably like, with those dissonant. That's definitely like Dillinger stuff. This was different. This is like later, years later, when we were like probably now where are we? 2012, probably about
Something like that. When did you do the Seymour Duncan video?
2012.
Yeah, I think this was like relatively the same time.
Yeah. So this is like when prog started becoming a thing. Like, all those first wave bands were coming out, like Tesseract, and I mean, they were already out. They were out by then, but like at least when I started becoming aware of it. And then, so this is what was like, oh shit, there's a different thing happening here that I want to introduce to these songs. So this is definitely like more of the genty thing coming out. Is that an H string? Is that
H string?
It's an H string. Yeah. So like, this song wasn't always H string. It was.
I think it was always H string. I think we started off with H strings. We had those agile H strings. I think this was...
But Techinflux was written before we bought the first H string.
You're right.
So like the riffs like this, digga digga bow, digga digga bow, digga digga digga, bow. That's definitely like, again, influence of that first wave of like prog metal that we started getting into. Remember in Music Theory? I mean, you wouldn't know, but like Music Theory 101, they're like melodic minor is different on the way down than it is on the way up.
Yeah.
I'm actually using that here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now this drum part that's coming up here is actually old. But it was like it was programmed originally And I definitely just did like my usual, we're gonna put every 3 things here instead of every 4. And we kept it. Oh, how many songs are ending with an epic?
Yeah.
All right, turn on the delay, turn on the reverb. The song is wrapping up.
The first record was all agile guitars, like a $400 guitar. And I remember asking you about it. I'm like, when's the last time you changed your strings on that thing? You're like, I never did.
I never
I
did.
had the same strings on it for a year before the record like that.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's just the theme of Ever Forth, right? It's like,
Whatever.
well, who fucking cares? I'm just trying to write some cool songs.
Yeah.
And then I think the way you wrote this is you just hit jicka down, that and then you just tuned the guitar down and didn't know what you were tuning.
Didn't know what I was doing, yeah.
And then
Got
you
to
had
the point the string was like,
But like even on the way down, I just wasn't really thinking of like a note. I was just, right, here we go.
yeah.
And in the background, I think you have this.
Oh,
It's
that,
like really low. You can't hear it right now, but it's really low. And I feel bad because Jacob had to go back and then just kind of listen to it and trying to figure out what note it was and just.
yeah.
I know him as well.
Anytime there's like a song that doesn't repeat, like a song like this, I'm gonna try so fucking hard to get at least one theme, a reprise of that theme in another part of the song. I feel like this was the part to repeat. It, you know. Yeah, I think that's the fastest I've ever rap screamed.
What grade would this kid be going into if this was a human baby, a human child? 12? How, what, 12 is what, 7th grade?
Don't you should know?
My kid's not 12. Yeah, this is like a 7th grader.